me, I've been listening to John Cohen for some time. I think that religion is the outcome of how human beings want an external source to save them from themselves. Because as human beings, we've socialized with each other for a long time, but we couldn't really figure out how to truly help each other. Because we're products of Mother Nature. We are products of Mother Nature. And within that sin, that brokenness that we have, we yearn to look towards external sources for help. I'm not going to go into detail whether there's aliens. There's definitely aliens. You just gotta wait and see what the proof is. But the fact is, religion is established through humanity's hopes, dreams, guilt. It's a collective, communal kind of response to it. All right, how do we get people to, cut across centuries of, like, for example, had it not been Christianity, you and I would have never met. These people would have never met. So it's a social lubricational. It's supposed to serve as some kind of a system, not for control, just solely for control, but solely to moralize individuals that need help, in terms that their morality is uncertain of themselves because they cannot figure out how others can help them. Christianity is about helping, people that have helped others, right? But using a central tenet figure, which was ultimately, the whole gist of it. And I think, honestly speaking, all we can do is really, help one another. I think that religion tells people that, violence is good if you don't obey. But I think that's not religion itself, but humanity's collective's need to punish others in terms of disobedience, in terms of morality. What's the difference between... people say there's a difference. What's the difference between people getting angry and people getting angry at criminals and people telling you that you're not deserving of, because of your sins, you are punished? Well, technically, the difference isn't between the innocent and the guilty, but the fact that we yearn to somehow cause justice towards others that are fundamentally, repairably, oops, I think I've drank too much. Repairably broken. So you got criminals, right? You got criminals who fight against each other. And the society looks at these people and like, oh, you know what? Guess what? He's dead. Good. You got people who hate the cops. You got people who defend the cops. At the end of the day, really, human beings are subjected to what the natural environment and their circumstances give them. Of course, there's always a choice. A criminal can choose. A criminal has choice. But sometimes people say it's bullshit that, insanity is, reason of insanity. It's not bullshit. It is what it is. People say, well, then insanity should make it even worse. I'm sorry to say this, but whether you try to justify your arguments that, you have a tribalistic viewpoint. You think that solely the person's responsibility should be placed fair and square on their shoulders. But that's not really true, is it? Because it's not fair and square. Because a person, how he grows up, is influenced by his environment, his family, his socioeconomic circumstances, a lot of things. And you cannot just decide, let's just put the blame on the little guy or the big guy or the criminal, right? Because everyone, yes, they have choices, but they ultimately are still dictated by what they experience. For example, you could have somebody like me who goes through a different path life. Let's just say, for example, imagine there are two me's. One person chooses differently. The other is me. At the end of the day, somehow, in some certain circumstances, you are forced. You are reactive. You're a person that reacts to, not that acts towards. And you can't, even if you want to blame that person, right? For example, there's this guy who's, a lot of people who I've seen in New Zealand, we've got plenty of like certain incidents like shooting, not as bad as America's. America, every day you see it on the news and police activity, just weeks and months, every month, every week, there's probably some criminal that pulls out a gun, tries to shoot the cops, and then the cops shoot them back. And it's the country is full of individuals that want to seek power over another. It's a survival mechanism. When you look at in America, you get caught by the cops. What do? As a person, your fight or flight instinct is raised. And there is no chance. Some people choose fight, some people choose flight. And whether people think you're stupid for choosing fighting the cops, it's irrelevant. It's because of protection of yourselves. You might think that's ironic. Why would you want to kill yourself? Or why would you want to get the cops to kill you if you're intending to protect yourself? The best logical way is to turn yourself in. Well, humans need freedom. Humans need freedom at all costs. And the fact is that humans need a way to secure their freedom. You hand somebody in jail, if somebody hands themselves over and they go to prison, it would be like, you know what, I'm going to dictate you along with the rest of the people, and you're going to be screwed either way. So to them, I was watching this police activity video. This report came in about this person who was loading his gun, a handgun. And so they spent 12 minutes with the officers. He pulled out a gun, but he didn't point it at the officers yet. And in the end, he was like thinking, fuck this, I'm just gonna die anyways. He's thinking throughout his life, he's thinking, what have I done wrong in my life, and do I still want to live? And people are like, yeah, congratulate, yeah, that's kind of sadistic actually. They just placed the onus in him. I was like, you chose, but technically that's still very bad, isn't it? Because you are not helping the person. People say, well, we helped him enough. We gave him a choice. He chose the wrong side of things. Well, technically he didn't. Because the way that the officers talk, they didn't de-escalate the situation enough. There's a lot of nuances. There's a lot of things that can be said to click a person's mind into changing his view, his perspective, his choice. But officers aren't usually trained for that. Officers usually go through some kind of program in the US, and they're itchy trigger. They have itchy trigger fingers. So does the criminal. But the criminal doesn't really have an itchy trigger finger, unless he's one of those guys that you're like, he's a gang member or something like that. Okay. But the average citizen who's kind of caught by the cops, and he's like, well, he's deliberately thinking through it in his life. It's all about survival. It's all about sociological circumstances that you kind of think, should I give up on life or should I not? And it's up to how America has its safety nets, its benefits. And in America, you have something similar to a social safety net here in New Zealand, like we have here. Technically, I think it's called the Social Security pension. Maybe, that's why maybe, to be honest, America is such a... I don't want to talk about that right now. But the fact is, how willing are we as a species in this era to care for one another? To de-escalate the situation when people become criminals. prevention is better. An ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. Because when people have a pound of cure, you can kill somebody as a criminal. But if the criminal has committed a crime, he's a criminal because he's committed a crime. What's the use? Whether he's wasting taxpayers' money or the bond set and he no longer will be, a waste in society, all that, and people are like, judges, we should penalize the judges for releasing these criminals. It's a narrow-minded view. Because you look at Finland, you look at some of these European countries, they rehabilitate the criminals. Look at Norway. They rehabilitate the criminals so effectively that it's just a matter of how do these criminals react to themselves? What do they do? How do they rehabilitate themselves? Because rehabilitation is a must, even if you think, let's just take, for example, the popular notion today is everyone's complaining about pedophiles and child molesters and shit like that. Oh, he no longer will be offending against other children. It's a win-win, yay! Yeah, sure, but he's already committed a crime. And there's always people like him to be born. So the fact is, what do we do? Is there a neurological pattern? Is there, I've researched some of these studies. Is there a vaccine? Is there a cure? Is there something? People say you can't cure these people. You can. You just have to be willing. And you have to be open to the fact that you have to cure these people. Because otherwise it's a neurological issue. It's like autism, it's like ADHD, it's like Down syndrome. If they can cure Down syndrome, why can't they cure this problem? If Moderna has already found mRNA cancer vaccines, then I don't even know if that's truly effective. Then why is it that we can't even find a cure for these people? It's not simple. It's complicated, but we can do it if we put our minds to it. Otherwise, then what's the use? For an eye for an eye, a life for a life, a burn for a burn, yada yada yada, and it's meaningless. You're just gonna have the same problem. It's like weeds. The weeds will just grow back. You have to entirely change the garden bed in order to fix the problem. And the whole garden bed, I'm not talking about Washington, I'm not talking about the old people's rife with. I'm talking about the neurology, the mind, the culture, our sexual competitive culture. When you look at the West, OnlyFans, males that are complaining about incels and all that shit, the more that you repress male sexuality, of course, you can say whatever you want to say, that women don't owe men sex and all that. But when you repress something, when you suppress something, when you ban something, when you illegalize something, when you look for the easy approach instead of the hard approach, you're not going to solve the issue. You're just going to make things worse, like prohibition. You're just going to make things completely... You drive them underground, and then they just commit acts of terror like 9/11, stuff like that. And, the more you try to suppress something, the more it turns itself into a monster. And the bigger that monster grows, and then it's like our own Freudian shadow that we have to conquer ourselves. We have to do our shadow work. Of the likes of whatever scientific analogy you want to place. This is the only way we're going to help our own civilizations to fix these things. Because sex is just sex. Look, it's pleasurable. All you're doing is sticking a body part into another body part, and the only problem is pregnancy. And in order to fix that problem, you got to figure out what to do. You got to figure out, okay, then how do we treat women better? How do we enable men to treat women better? And instead of pop culture is like, oh, you look at clavicular, you look at forget about those people. We got to start, how do we teach men to be caring, to be loving, to understand the nature of a female, that she wants to be cared for, she wants to be loved for, she wants to be a lot of other things. And you're not trying to be sexist, but what do they want? What do we want? We have to communicate. And so when you take a look at all these molesters, right, what did they have in common? How could they be so evil? It's probably because decades of sexual repression and Usually pedophiles or child molesters, they're kind of like scared of women. They actually are. You think that it'd be like the incels, they hate women. They are actually scared of them. They probably grew up within dysfunctional, abusive families, especially probably a controlling, dysfunctional mother. And when you can't really get it's all about sexual repression and suppression. That's the truth about it. And then your mind, there's a, just go and research all these bloody, just go and research all these scientific studies. And you can finally get a grasp on what's truly going on in the mind of them. Whether you want to say it's evil, it's not. It's just neurology. There's no evil in it. It's just dysfunctional, neurological. It's just remnants of our own hominid pasts. We think that it's like basically we think that our ancestors are savages. We hate it for the fact that we evolved from our ancestors. But the truth is our ancestors weren't that savage. Everyone thinks that, the cavemen kill each other and all that. It's not necessarily like that. Cavemen don't usually try to use violence. They try to avoid it. When violence occurs, it's because there's no other option to de-escalate. Nothing but resources are completely limited. Social tensions are high. You played this game, Zombie Exodus Safe Haven? It's like that. I remember there's this character, I forgot. This character keeps picking on Jamie, right? And Jamie has had enough. He starts fighting this guy. You want to prevent something like that. You want to de-escalate those things before they happen. So, essentially speaking, are we able to in this day and age? Are we able to?